Well, obviously, all of a sudden days are getting nearer, 20 something plus days before we get to start. And I think we're starting to develop as far as packages on offense, defense, special teams, starting to let players know that there's not enough reps to go around to everyone like it would be in training camp per se. We're getting to that point now where we have to really kind of hone in on what we're going to do and the players that are going to be involved in all three of those phases. So it's good competition because I think players understand the importance of, filling their name in the depth chart somewhere. And that's the great thing about the game of football, that every time you go out there, you get to compete. And I told them it's more than anything else is about trust. When you think about reps to players, can the coaches trust you as a football player? You have enough talent, but can they trust you to do things consistently over and over and over again? And so that was kind of the emphasis today in practice. But other than that, pretty good practice, pretty crisp practice, which was kind of fun to watch.
Hode?
Hi, Herm. If I'm not mistaken, today was the first day in full pads. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, we say that, full pads. When you put shoulder pads and a helmet on anymore, that's full pads. I think when you wear pants, people say, well, there's full pads. To me, the way the players play anymore, that's full pads when they have shoulder pads and a helmet on. But yeah, I mean, full pads. I mean, it's all the same to me.
Yeah, but I guess the reason I was asking that question is as far as the tackling, is it still thud tempo? Is it a little more?
It's still thud. No live tackling yet. We'll present that probably sooner than later, maybe during a drill or two, and then maybe have somewhat of a little bit of a scrimmage. Not a lot. You guys know how I operate. I mean, it's just, we want to do things right, getting a good tackling position for the most part, thudding guys, not being on the ground. But we will get into the mode where we'll have some live tackling.
Greg?
Coach, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Good to see you. Hey, listen, I want to take you away from college a little bit.
Sure.
The NFL is likely to have some openings this fall. We're seeing a couple coaches get fired during the season. It's got me to thinking about diversity in the NFL, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on how the NFL can get more black coaches on the sidelines.
Well, I mean, giving them an opportunity to interview, but also not being so in a hurry to so-called, hire a guy that comes out of a system that you think that's a system that works. Well, I will say this, whether you're an offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator, remember when you're a head coach, you have to coach everybody. And I think sometimes that gets kind of lost in the conversation. It's like, I want this system. And it's kind of funny because I say, you can have a system on paper, but do you have the players? And sometimes I want the system, but do you have that quarterback? Do you have this guy? Do you have that guy? Well, if you don't, you got to get a guy that can come in there and say, okay, these are the players we have, and this is what I'm willing to do to adjust my system. And I think this, the interview process is one thing, but I think putting people in position that make those decisions has a lot to do with things too. And so it's not just about the coaches. Who are the GMs? Who are the people that are making those decisions that get to help you make those decisions when you think about hiring a coach? So I think the NFL understands that. There's been a lot of talk about that going forward. I hope these owners and GMs don't rush and just get the quick fix and saying, I want this guy, he's the hot guy. Really do your due diligence and interview candidates that are qualified.
And Coach, just to make sure that we're clear, you don't have any aspirations to go back to the NFL, do you?
I can make it a statement, and I will stay true to the statement. This will be my last hurrah. No, I've had opportunities. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here, and once I leave here, hopefully this program is headed in the right direction, and I can come to some games, later on in my life. Kind of fun to watch.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Doug Haller.
I think we have a pretty good idea on offense that you'll need to use freshmen at, maybe the receivers and running back positions. But on defense, do you envision using true freshmen at you got a little bit more experience there. Do you anticipate using more freshmen on defense as well?
Doug, you know that. You know the answer to that question. You watched us play for 3 years. What season have we not used freshmen? You think
That's a
something
good point.
new?
Okay, well, what about in the secondary? I can identify the freshman linebackers.
Well, yeah, you make a good point. I mean, we've got a crew that's kind of played together, which is good. You know, they've grown up together a little bit. But there's also, you know, some backup roles that the guys are going to have to play. And there's some we feel like we've got some young, talented guys that will get an opportunity. You know, we always try to get guys in the game. And with this year especially, when you think about it, I think any college coach now knows that he has a free year with these players. So if you can get some young guys in the mix, I think that helps you. It helps their confidence and everything else. And we've always looked at it that way. Are there ways we can get young guys in the game, in a live football game, that they feel like they're a part of the team, but they also gain some experience?
Chris Cartman.
Coach, defensive coordinators are always wanting to be able to get to the quarterback with 4 guys, and that makes things a lot easier on you. So how do you feel about that capability? I know you feel like with your corners, you can put them on islands, but you would rather be able to sometimes get to the quarterback with 4.
Well, yeah, any defensive coach knows if I can rush with 4, there's a multitude of coverages I can play in the back end. And, you know, Marvin's been around the game a long time. We both have. And I just think that anytime you can rush with 4 guys, that gives you a little bit of an advantage, secondary-wise and schematically. You know, what you can do when you have to bring more guys, then you realize that when you do that, you got to win. But now you're putting some guys in position where it's going to be one-on-one. And if you really, really get a little anxious, and there's no one in the hole, I call that casino thing, when you just, like when you go to the casino, you know, you've been playing all night and you got a couple chips left and you're tired, you just throw them out there and you say, okay, either I'm going to make it or I'm going to go home broke, right? And you don't want to get into that. I don't like that casino stuff a whole lot because that's kind of makes my stomach get a little nervous, you know, with the middle being wide open.
Zach Keenan.
Coach, Tyler Johnson said that he got a lot off his chest in a conversation with you this summer. Obviously, that's all private, but can you tell us what you think is going to be different in Tyler this year?
Well, I think he's maturing, and you know, his clock is running too. I mean, he's not a freshman anymore. He's a talented young man, and he has a lot of potential. And I think that, you know, he's watched over the years, and to his credit, this is his 1, 2, 3, I think this is his 4th defensive line coach. He's had a lot of coaches, you know, and that room was always kind of subject to, there's another coach coming in, right? So, I mean, he's had a lot of different guys, but I think he's got a pretty good mindset right now. He's very, very, very focused in on practice. He's trying to get better, and we need him. You know, he's a talented young man. We need him to help our defense.
Mark McClune.
Hey, Coach, thanks for the time today. Hey, just curious how you'll spend the next couple Saturdays as the team sees other teams playing college football and the ramp up. And I would imagine there's going to be a lot of anxious players wanting to play. So, I mean, how will you kind of manage the next couple Saturdays? How will you kind of keep them from, you know, wanting to go out and play and not looking around and watching all the games and just get them ready for the Saturday that is to come?
Yeah, we've kind of been in that mode, but you make a great point. And basically what we do, I try to do this every week, and it's nothing new. We always take situations out of games that have occurred, and we learn from them. You know, I'm a big situation guy. Okay, certain things happen in the game, and you go, okay, maybe we would have handled it a little bit different. And we all kind of sit in there as a team, and I kind of talk about the situations that occur in football games. And, you know, the players they're into it because they get it. They said, man, we're trying to gain some knowledge on some things that happen. And that's the whole key when you first start back. You know, we're late. We're late to this party now all of a sudden. The Pac-12 is a little bit late. You know, the Big Ten is a little bit late. And I think the players are anticipating playing. I think they don't realize that that first game, there's a lot of anxiety, right? And there's a lot of emotion and people fatigue. That's the first thing I watched when I watched college football games when they first started. You know, they weren't in shape so much to play. They think they are, but until they really play a game and exert all that energy, they don't know what it feels like. as excited as they are, you'd be surprised when they run to the sideline and looking at you and say, no, you wanted to play, go play, right? So getting them in shape, I think, is a thing that all of us as coaches, because we haven't had a real game yet, that's something in the back of all of our minds.
Appreciate it.
Herm, I know that the defensive line, maybe compared to other positions on defense, came into preseason practices with a little more question marks than the other units. How do you feel that unit has progressed generally so far, especially with the pass rush capabilities at defensive end?
Well, I think they're learning. You know, the system's a little bit different than it was in the past. We still use some pieces of that system. So it's new. But I think, you know, to their credit, especially the line, because they've had so many different coaches there, they're buying into it. You know, they really are. And they're excited about having the opportunity. But we still got a long way to go. I mean, there's still a lot of practice time. And then, you know, how do we react to a game? What does it look like in a game, right? And that'll all be interesting when this thing kicks off for us.
Doug Haller.
Herm, you brought in Donnie Henderson as a consultant. Just how are you using him and what does he provide?
He's another set of eyes, similar to what Marvin did. You know, Donnie worked for me. He was my coordinator with the Jets. Really good football coach. We go way back, Donnie Henderson and myself. And so when Marvin decided to come out of retirement, I'm glad he did. It was almost shocking when he did. I thought he was kidding me when he first said, I'll do it. And I said, you do what? He said, I'll do it. Are you kidding me? I'll do it. And then I asked him, you know, you asked your wife, Peggy, is it okay with her first? I don't want to get in trouble with her. And so bringing Donnie here, I think is good. You know, he's worked for Marvin too. So he kind of understands the system, which is great. And he's kind of no different than Marvin. He sits in there, watches a lot of tape. He brings suggestions to the table as far as coverages and fronts. He's a very knowledgeable football coach, a really good football coach.
Carson.
Coach, with all three running backs and Rashad and Daniel and Diamante taking first team reps, how do you think each of those guys have been performing, and do you have any indication of how you think that depth chart might shake out?
I don't. I know Zach believes in having three backs, and I think it's like anything else. It's once you start playing football games, how you use those guys is very important, and the production that they bring to the table. And we talk about that all the time. You know, when you go in the game, you need to be a productive player. You'll be judged on that. But Zach will use them accordingly to how they fit. I think a lot of it will be game plan orientated, you know, what we want guys to do. So here again, on offense it's new, defense is new. It's going to be fun for me to watch how this thing all develops, right? Because it's the players are excited about it, but you know, it's one thing to practice. It's another thing when you have to go play a real game against a talented team like USC. That's very talented on both sides of the football.
Last question to Chris.
Coach, we saw last year, 2 years ago really, how young your defense was. And now they're a lot more senior. And now you have an offense that is going to rely on several new players. So how does that feeling and where you're at compare with the offense to, say, 2 years ago with your defense?
Well, I always say this, the thing I've learned the most about college football, and I saw it from afar, but now that I'm invested in it and I'm in it every day, how do the emotions of young people, how they handle those emotions the day of the game? I see certain things in practice that I go, okay, and you have to go grab one or two of them and say, look, and they say, I got it, coach, I got it. But it'll be interesting when the game starts, how they react to all this, because you know young people are very emotional, and I like it, but I prefer passion rather than emotion, because emotion seems to put us in a different space. That generally when you get there, errors occur, and so the players they kind of know how I feel about that. But with that being said, until they get actually in a real football game against an opponent, and especially like an opponent against USC, with the brand name, and these guys have read about and heard about, some of them been recruited by that school, how are they going to respond, right? And I wish I could tell you, but I don't know. And I think once I see it, then I can help them adjust to how they need to respond if it's not in a way that can make them and help them be a productive player.